So we're down at Transfer Beach, and we're down more at the beach area, concession stand, washrooms, horseshoe pitch, dog park across from us. And Rob's going to tell us a little bit about the history and what the significance of these plaques are.
Most people don't realize that Transfer Beach Park is actually because there used to be a wharf, a transfer wharf. This was a port where rail cars were loaded on and off the island. So any rail cars that came north of Victoria came through Ladysmith and up island. So it was transferring from rail land onto a barge to be towed off to Vancouver. So that is why it's called Transfer Beach Park. The history of the area is such that the property was originally owned by basically CP Rail. When they relocated the rail transfer point to Nanaimo, the wharf here became redundant. So Canadian Pacific Railways decided they were going to build a log dump off the wharf. Well, the mayor of the day, a woman named Kay Gruel, thought this was completely inappropriate. So she used her powers to swing and deal with them to gain all this land that eventually became Transfer Beach Park. At that time, it was a pile of coal slags, blackberry bushes. It was a nasty place. She managed to get the students from Malaspina University, which is now Vancouver Island University's technical section, heavy-duty mechanics, to come down here and reshape the land to give it the contours that we have now. Then she asked the members of the public of Ladysmith to come down, and people like the service clubs like the Kinsmen, the Lions, and the general public came down with wheelbarrows and shovels and rakes and contoured the land, and the seeds were planted. So this is why it is truly a community park.
Rob touched a little bit on the history, and we're going to go into a little bit more depth. I want to hear more about this wharf and this coal business, because I wasn't here those days. So Rob, tell us a little bit more.
Transfer Wharf was actually the first wharf that was built here. It was built in the 1880s as part of the ENN rail line. But when Dunsmuir found that he couldn't ship his coal to his loading ports in Nanaimo at Departure Bay, he decided to build his coal wharf here in Ladysmith Harbour. The wharf that he built was 999 feet long. If it had been 1,000 feet, it would fall under different government regulations and insurances. So with the loading facility in the wharf here, he made a conscious decision to build the town for the miners to live here, because he knew...
Oh, pick me for the answer.
Okay. Why?
Did they not take this town and actually move it from somewhere else?
No. What happened is Dunsmuir decided he didn't want the coal miners living here, because part of this philosophy was that when a coal mine dies, the town dies. A seaport town has more longevity, so for the businesses that get established, they have a better chance of continuing. What he did do is he encouraged people to move down here. Many built new houses and built new businesses, but because the miners were already living in a place called Wellington north of Nanaimo, they decided to transport many of the buildings. So a lot of the buildings were transported, some of the hotels, etc. But they didn't move the whole town.
Most of it. Some of it.
Some of it.
Throw me a bone, man.
Jones Hotel was moved, and also churches were moved because the houses were moved here and they were built earlier. Ladysmith at one point, I would say, had more 100-year-old buildings per capita than any other community in British Columbia.
Highlight for kids and visitors and residents in the summertime. This place is hopping.
In the 50s and 60s, when we didn't have lifeguards here, but we had rafts, and we used to have another wharf here, it was the transfer wharf that people used to swim off of and dive off of. The parents were the lifeguards. And when you'd come down here on a nice sunny day, the kids would be playing in the water, but the parents would be in the watch guards. And one of the people that used to come down there was my family, my mom and my dad, and my sister and I would swim down here. So it's fitting that people like ourselves and many others have purchased memorial benches around Transfer Beach, because Transfer Beach was the social life of our community, and it was everywhere where everything happened. One reason we chose this beach was, in addition, if you look over this way, you don't see anything now, but in the 50s and 60s, people had boathouses. They would put their boat in boathouses, and they had tracks from the old coal mine and the wheels from some of the rail cars, for the coal cars, and their boats would be launched into the ocean here, and they would go fishing, and they would go camping, etc. But there was a row of about 20 of these boathouses. It was very interesting characters.
So cool.
Yeah,
so
it was.
cool.
So another aspect of this area here is there was another wharf. It was the government wharf. It was built about 1910. That's where the commercial fish boats used to be. So the boaters, the commercial fishermen would be there. But us kids, we would come down there and we'd fish off that wharf. But that wharf was taken out probably in the 90s. But prior to it being taken out, it was used by one of the logging companies to offload dynamite for the logging roads construction.
That's a blast.
And you definitely get a blast out of that. It became known as a dynamite wharf, and I find it ironic that it was called Dynamite Wharf, because it was that for about 3 or 4 years, but it's a government wharf for basic 50, 60 years.
Crazy.
So today, in that whole section, that area now has beautiful homes built. It's Oyster Cove Estates, and they have bought property that the town used to have, and it was originally done so that you could have a seawall that people could walk. But unfortunately, over time, the rights to be able to walk the seawall is gone. But someday, Ladysmith will, in my opinion, have a beautiful sea walk along the foreshore to the creek to tie into our Holland Creek trail system.
So Rob, at the amphitheater here, how did this all come about?
Well, the amphitheater is a creation for this millennium. What the town did is they decided they wanted to create this amphitheater because we've been having some events down here. And what they did is they got various grants, but the townsfolk contributed tens of thousands of dollars in regards to building this amphitheater. If you look closely, you will see plaques with, or bricks I should say, with people's names on them as to the people who have donated money. Not only were there large corporate sponsors, but individual families. They've done these memorials. In many cases, the bricks are here to remember the deceased members of their family. We wanted to have a spot where we could have an amphitheater or a gazebo for music. Mayor Hutchison ran with the idea and realized that the natural contours of the slack piles made a bit of a bowl. Got involved in creating a much bigger project than most people had envisioned.
I know myself, being a resident of Ladysmith, I've come down here for the concerts in the park, which is a major fundraiser for the Resources Center. They have several years is the logger sports, and this is just such a beautiful, beautiful place to have community events. We've got the ocean on one side, beautiful seating up on the other side, and a marvelous beach to the other side.
A couple of other things that you may not realize. This is one of the premier wedding venues on Vancouver Island. We have wedding couples coming from Victoria, from Parksville, to take advantage of this.
Behind us there's some poles and I see some wood on the ground. What's that all about?
The tree climbing poles are part of the logger day sports. Climbers climb to the top, ring a bell in competitions. The other thing that you're referring to is the wood on the deck there. That is actually covering a pond. For the logger sports, they take that top off, fill it with water, and they have log rolling competitions.
Go backwards, go here. You go forward and backwards. You try to log this. Oh, whatever they want to do, control it.
Transfer Beach to me is the place where we first came when we moved here and went, oh my God, beautiful ocean, beautiful park, lovely shade trees. It's just the perfect place to come on a hot summer afternoon and put out your lawn chair, have a picnic. It's very special.